Hey all, Zach Lokes. Here is the next video, the third video in the Permabed system about building raised beds from scratch. We understand how to kill off the grass using polytarps and also how to loosen our soil using ergonomic shovels or broad forks. And now we are getting a sense of what type of soil we want to have in our garden. The next job is to bring in some organic matter and fertility. Now at this stage, if you have access to real composted manure, this is a great stage to add it. This can be manure from neighbors if you're in a rural area or your own farm if you have animals. And it's not fresh manure, but it's freshly composted manure. It's manure that's been turned for a year or two or three and still has a lot of vitality in it, including soil life that have thrived within the decomposition process. And we're top dressing it across our area of garden bed. Or if you're making a larger perma plot, which is usually somewhere between 6 and 12 garden beds or perma beds, it's important to understand that you can spread it across the whole area, but you can also take it from one side of the land that you've killed off with your polytarp and slowly improve and build beds working your way along. If you don't have access to a freshly composted manure, compost will work, whether commercially available from different companies or from a local company that is producing a wholesale product that you can get a trailer load or a truckload and have delivered. Spread it across the area. It could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches thick. It just depends on how much love you want to give your soil. If you have found in stage 2 that you have a lot of clay in your soil, or it's really sandy, instead of being a loam, adding a lot of compost now at stage 3 is going to be a perfect solution to improve that soil texture. It will bind together the sand to make better aggregates or the building blocks of good soil. And if it's clay, it's going to loosen the clay and help the clay actually form a highly beneficial habitat for your vegetables and the soil organisms that are going to live in the soil by providing more porosity within the soil. So we spread it out as thick as we can afford, and we start to actually mix it into the soil. This is a process of double digging. It's when you take your shovel, and hopefully it's an ergonomic shovel with a nice foot pad so that you don't get fatigue in your arch of your foot and your ankles and up into your calves. And so you're going to loosen the soil by double digging. You're digging down, you're lifting up the soil, you're flipping it over. You're digging down, you're lifting up the soil, you're flipping it over. And you're doing it again and again, mixing the local or native soil with your freshly composted manure or compost mix. Once you have gotten a nice mixed material, you're going to be able to see that the ground is starting to raise up. Not only is it raised up because you start to add open spaces into the soil, air spaces into the soil by subsoiling and lifting, but it's going to be raised up even more because you've actually added in your composted manure, thus increasing the volume of mineral and organic material in the soil. It's important to understand that our goal for soil is often to find that magic ratio where soil, technically speaking, is about 45% mineral and it's about 25% air, 25% water, and roughly 5% organic matter. So if this is your mineral material, of course that is the sand, the silt, and the clay. And if this is your air, and this is your water, and this is your organic matter, otherwise abbreviated as SOM, you're going to need to find a balance in there where 50% of your soil is actually open spaces, pore space, because you need 25% in air, which is an opening in the soil, and 25% for water, which is also an opening in the soil. Now these openings are not big like this. These are tiny little interstitial spaces within the soil. There are macropores and micropores, but they're still very small. And all of this porosity, all of this pore space is what makes the soil rich, ironically. It's what allows different microorganisms to breathe, to have access to water, to move within the soil, and it allows the nutrients in the soil to be mixed with the soil-water solution and become bioavailable for the plants. If you don't have porosity in your soil, whether it's 50% porosity, 45% porosity, but you literally are working your way down to something where it's 20, 15, 10, or 0% porosity, you actually have rock or dirt, and it's not alive, and there's no room for the water. And if that's the case, then you can pour as much fertility onto your garden bed as you like. It's not going to get to the plants because plants access nutrients through the water solution, the soil solution, where the nutrients are able to be assimilated in solution by the plants. So critical here is understanding the introduction of microorganisms through a freshly composted manure, 1, 2, 3 years of composting, as well as other composts, and having a nice mixture from double digging so that you have it all integrated and you've created porosity and built up the raised bed. And you have a period of time where you're able to actually analyze your soil and understand its weaknesses and its benefits. So if you do want to send a soil sample again, if you didn't already in stage 2, or if you did, you can send one now that you've integrated your composts of choice, whatever's locally available or what you found and brought in, to understand even better what your texture, your organic matter levels, your cation exchange capacity, which is an important factor in understanding nutrient exchange between the soil and the water solution and your plants, as well as the breakdown of your macro and micronutrients. And good soil labs will also provide you with information about what else you might need in order to balance it for your goals of vegetables or fruits. So for more videos, keep checking out Instagram and YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I'll continue to elaborate on building permabeds from scratch.